Mr. Babin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, witnesses, for being here. Mr. Stella, in your testimony, you also state that for the areas that have seen elevated levels of ozone over the last 10 years, an increase in background ozone is likely to blame. Can you please elaborate how you know this to be true?
Thank you for the question. Specifically, we don't have values that would allow us to interpret how much of that increased international or background contribution is there. But what we do recognize is that when we run our photochemical models and look at our source apportionment studies, which basically tags the input to the model, follows it through time and space, and then we look at the ozone concentrations at each monitor, we're seeing that as anthropogenic emissions are being applied locally in our states, the ozone concentrations are being offset by an increase from this background contribution component. Now, whether or not that's all international anthropogenic or international biogenic is uncertain. But the studies seem to indicate that based on our source apportionment runs, the relative percentage of the background ozone is increasing compared to the reductions we're seeing from anthropogenic controls domestically.
Okay, well, you had mentioned modeling. Would you discuss some of the improvements being made to modeling through collaborations like the one between NOAA, NASA, and EPA?
Absolutely. Some of the work that's ongoing at those agencies include looking at the performance evaluation of the models. Are we adequately predicting and projecting levels of background ozone? And so, for example, along the west coast of the U.S., where we have a very clean boundary and we can measure ozone as it comes across the Pacific, studies are being conducted with satellites, with ozone sondes, with high elevation monitors. And so we're trying to capture with better accuracy the amounts of emissions that are coming in without a domestic anthropogenic or biogenic influence. And so those are some of the studies that are being conducted. In addition to looking at the air chemistry involved with the ozone formation as it's developed over the oceans, as well as attempting to better understand the impact of wildfires and biogenics, and so looking at the inputs that go into our modeling.
Okay, thank you. And then Ms. Rath, reducing ozone emissions can stifle economic development in a region because of the impacts to construction industry and businesses. Do you have any sense of how much it costs for your area to comply with these regulations?
Yes, sir. Thank you. As I'd mentioned, we had a study that was performed by an economist at St. Mary's University, and he said that with a marginal designation, our 8-county MSA would have cost at a minimal level of $117 million a year up to a maximum of a little over $1 billion a year. So that's the cost annually if we were to go into a marginal status of non-attainment. And then we also have the figures for moderate. And if I may, Congressman, I would like to say that we have certainly seen an increase in the foreign transport in our area. In 2015, we were about 29% foreign, and it's increased in 2017 to 38% foreign. So we're clearly seeing a much larger impact of foreign transport, and it's because of the improvements that we have done locally with the local generation going down. So that percentage that's foreign has certainly increased, at least in our area.
Okay, thank you very much. And then Mr. Franquist, would you please explain the potential economic impacts on a rural community if it is determined to be in non-attainment for ozone?
Thank you, and good question. Unfortunately, I don't have the same numbers for an area like Yuma. What I can say is, thanks to the good work that Texas has done, we actually scaled a similar economic study for Phoenix's non-attainment area, and that's somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 to $100 million, again, per year annually. For a place like Yuma, I think the cost you have to look in is avoided businesses coming into the area. We know that in the Phoenix area, we've lost 4 large businesses coming in the non-attainment area just to avoid the offsets and layer requirements. So unfortunately, I can't give you a dollar sign, but I can say it's significant in terms of job loss or job avoidance.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely an impact.
Correct.
A number of businesses just won't come into that area because of the non-attainment.
That's correct.
Okay, well, I think my time's expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.